Suma's POV.
What? Change your name? Why?
I asked.
Is there something wrong with Jake? Do you want to start going by a sentinel fully? He shook his head.
No, a new name. I think maybe, well, I had a long talk with an old friend who went through all this too. He suggested it might help me find myself. I would remind you both of the situation and the presence we are all in, Captain Kagwala said impatiently.
Ah, our apologies, Your Majesty, I said. Jake and I both bowed, and the guards relaxed, however slightly. Sentinel, I wish to hear of the report about the Chaos Dragon directly from you. Please explain everything you can. Spare no details, Queen Ompera ordered. Jake spent a rather long time going into her vision, the spell, his conversation with Zechariah, and then he explained why I had difficulty summoning him.
And that's when I saw Neathog, he said.
The Founder Dragon? I asked, confused. But he died. Everyone in Amboss knows the story. He was the only dragon to fight against the Chaos Dragon and survive. Not only that, he drove him away from Yggdrasil, and gave Amboss the guidance needed to found this country after the ravaging.
It is impossible, Sven said. His body withered and became the very heart of this castle. Every hatchling has heard that story.
Explain yourself, Sentinel. How do you claim to speak with the dead? Queen Ompera asked, but she did not sound mad. Instead, it felt like she was more concerned about something.
I remember the dragons telling me long ago about what happened to them after death,
Jake started. You mean Zechariah? I pointed out.
Jake nodded but continued. When they die, and they knew it was coming, some would choose to cast a spell on their souls, binding it to the ether between realms in hopes of ascending.
Ascending? The Queen asked. Jake rubbed the back of his long hair, which hung down to his shoulder these days. He had stopped cutting it with his weapons months ago.
It has something to do with their people's gods, or that they wanted to become gods. I did not really understand at the time, but now I think they wanted to enter a higher dimension, or something.
He shrugged, leaving us confused. A what? I asked.
It's hard to explain, and not really important right now. Basically, he stuck his soul there to grow stronger after dying.
The Queen stayed silent, her eyes closed and seemingly in deep thought. Finally, she opened them. I believe you, Sentinel.
My Queen?
Sven asked, hesitant. His accounts line up reasonably well with my family's records of the Founder Dragon's last days, though most of what happened during that time was kept from public records. So, I order everyone in this room to keep what you have just heard a secret. Everyone in the room bowed and agreed to obey. On to other matters. Sentinel, do you know where the Chaos Dragon is going to arrive?
Your Majesty, if I may.
One of the guards spoke up. He seemed higher ranked than the others, perhaps their leader. He has an upside-down golden triangle pin, marking him as a major, second class.
This familiar, he said, with some disdain, has presented no proof of his claims. He has been allowed access to the royal family's records before. What if he simply memorized the record then and presented it to bolster a false claim? For what purpose? Captain Giguales asked. To accrue Her Majesty's favour, or to gather all our kingdom's forces to a single area, and leave us weak to a separate attack. He entered the mind of a filthy Southern Union member. Who knows what that did to him?
Though there is no way he memorized the record from his previous time in the castle, Major Nadix bears an excellent point, at least in some sense. Have you any proof of your claims, Sentinel? The Queen asked.
I don't, Jake shook his head. Queen Ompera, please believe me when I say that none of your people understand how dangerous danger is.
Some of the guards scoffed. Others glanced at one another. Yes, we have all heard the stories, Sentinel, and even to this day, the continent still bears scars from his rampage. We know very well—
You know nothing! Jake snapped. You dare!
Sven shouted, appalled that Jake interrupted Her Majesty. Honestly, the moment he did it, I felt my breath and perhaps my very soul leave my body for a moment. Look, Jake said. and faster than I had ever seen him do so, he cast a spell. No chanting, no warning, barely even a waver in his manner, and I was overcome by the spell's effects. Instantly, images of battle flooded my mind, as if I was seeing through another's eyes. There, on the horizon, was a dragon. Not much larger than a dot, but the moment he came into view, everyone and everything around me, in the vision, began to suffer and die. Nume fell from the air. Familiars went mad as their masters died on their backs and attacked one another. Those who survived the first spell took to the sky. I watched as they grew closer to the dragon, only to be overwhelmed by the pure mana radiating off his body. Some the dragon attacked, others he did not need to. And the spells it cast were powerful. Legions of Nume died in a single cast. By the time the dragon landed and the fighting began on the ground between, whom I believed to be Zachariah and the dragon, nearly all the Nume were dead. The ground shook with the force of their spells. I watched through his eyes as Zachariah inflicted fatal blows on the dragon again and again to no effect. And the dragon used his spells to inflict all manner of torment upon Zachariah, though thankfully I was spared from feeling it. His flesh boiled away, only to regrow in the same manner Jake's hand did. He rotted to the bone, and still renewed himself. The dragon's wings were clipped, severed entirely, in fact, by Zachariah's spells and weapons, but it did not even slow him down. They tormented one another endlessly until more Nume arrived, only to become fodder for the dragon and Zachariah's crossfire. And then the vision ended, and I was left in shock. It took me a moment to realize what I had seen, and what was happening around me. Jake's spell had affected everyone in the room. We all saw the vision, and were all reeling equally. The higher ranks handled it well, as did the royal guards, who had managed to collect themselves. But the queen, she was in a far worse state than even I was. Svend, who mere moments earlier had been in a heap on the ground himself, began to tend to her majesty. A familiar of the royal guards launched itself at him. However, it was intercepted by Jake's personal barrier spell, never even getting close. Faster than I could even register Jake's question or the familiar's attack, every guard in the room all cast attack magic targeting Jake. To my horror, I watched as dozens of spells all impacted the shield, stirring a cloud of smoke, fire, lightning, dust, gravel, and wood so thick I was forced to back up or get caught in it myself. "Jake!" I yelled, mortified at what was happening. But then the cloud faded as the spells ended, and there stood Jake, unfazed and unharmed by the attacks. The lightning and fire from the spells circled around his barrier, outlining it like two hatchlings drawing in the dirt might outline a rock pretending it was some vast fortress they must conquer. The barrier glowed faintly as the fire and lightning slowly dissipated. "Queen Ompera, are you all right?" Jake asked, and a second round of spells was launched at him. This time, though, they were stopped halfway through. "Enough! Enough!" Queen Ompera shouted, finally recomposed from the vision. The cloud faded once more, and still Jake was unharmed. "Do you understand?" Jake asked. "I couldn't beat him. That battle ended with an entire city of Nume slaughtered, the land scorched and poisoned forever, and everyone but me and Amboss dead. Deja left and did the same thing again a week later, except there was no one to defend the city the next time. There were over 50 of that era's finest mages, and they died first," he yelled.
"Then what do you suggest we do, familiar sentinel? Lay down in the dirt and let him trample us?"
Major Nadix asked, still clearly uneasy from the vision.
"No, but you can't fight him. We knew that last time too."
"Then what do you suggest?" Queen Ompera asked.
"He's stuck in the ether. The only reason for that is because Zachariah is there, holding him inside. But once he is dead, Deja can walk right out. More or less," Jake said.
"So we need to keep him inside?"
Captain Giguales asked. "How?" I asked.
"That I don't know," Jake answered.